Okay, let's share. You got green. It's okay. You are flashing green. I don't know why.
I know you come a long way, baby, but you don't need that heart of stone, no. To prove that you can do it, baby. You make it on your own, but you can't keep running away from love, 'cause the first one let you down, no, no, no. And though others try to satisfy you, baby, with me true love can still be found. Love can still be found. The second time around.
Come on, share this as soon as you see it.
So much better, second time around.
Get as many people in as you can. Second time around. Thank you all for tuning in with us tonight. We hope that you are able to see us and hear us clearly. I am your host tonight, along with my lovely, lovely bride, Ray Johnson. Tonight, this is second time around. It's a conversation of necessary endings and new beginnings, and we want to invite you to join us tonight on much needed topics of conversation. Listen, I'm a man who wears many hats, and among those, I happen to be a man in love with this woman. I'm an author, an educator, and a leadership development coach, and I want to help you grow and develop and second time around opportunities for you in your life. Honey, why don't you tell them who you are and what you do?
Hey, I just enjoyed listening to you. So yes, good evening, everyone. I'm a writer, a worshiper, and a woman who is in love with this man. And we're embarking on this journey together. And we're excited just to have some conversations and talk with you about our journey and our adventure, really, of the second time around.
Well, good. I'm so glad. What are the three things that you said that you do? You said that you were a writer and that you were a worshiper and that you're a woman that happens to be in love with this man. And I happen to be an author, an educator, and a leadership development coach. Why should people listen to the engagement with this conversation?
Right. There are several things that we can consider. You know, first of all, it's for those who are ready to just start again. All life happens, and we don't plan for the things that happen to happen in our lives, and those things can stump us sometimes and paralyze us. But if you're ready to really take on life, take it just take it and say, I'm going to do this thing. This is for you. It's for you to join the conversation. Anybody who's been traumatized by life and you really thought that I can't do this again, I can't go on, because pain will paralyze you if you let it. But we want you to be able to, if you're ready to just push past that trauma and push past those things that have caused this kind of interruption in your life, and to grow together, this evening, these conversations are for you. And then anybody who is ready to engage in second chances.
Yeah.
You're welcome to join us in these conversations.
Absolutely. I think that when we're talking about relationships and we're talking about second time around opportunities, whether it's someone who's pursuing education again, whether they're trying to buy a home again and recover, as we are in our moments, or whether they are looking at starting a business opportunity or coming back to the Lord and coming back to a relationship with Him, I think there are some things that I believe are necessary for people who are going to re-engage the second time around that I think is critically important. And so what is interesting about this, you know, you and I were having a conversation the other day, and a great friend of mine, Leslie Chisholm, she put some information out on Facebook, and I just really thought it was something that was really, really important. And so I'm gonna share my screen again with our listening audience, and I want to read to them this post that she put out, and hopefully everybody will be able to see it as we share it here. And I think it's popped right on in. Here's what it says. It says this. It says, so many good women have dealt with the wrong man, and so many good men have dealt with the wrong woman, that by the time you two finally meet, you're both afraid of each other. Let me read it again. So many good women have dealt with the wrong man, and so many good men have dealt with the wrong woman, that by the time you two finally meet, you're both afraid of each other. Now, I believe there's a lot of truth in that, but also I think there's some fallacy in that as well. And it has to do with this whole notion and idea of good men and good women. And that being the case, I think the real issue is, I don't think that we can effectively say, per se, if you will, all the way around, that there are good men and good women like that. What would you say about that when you looked at that statement?
It all goes by, what do you call a good woman and what do you call a good man? Because everybody feels like they're a good person and that they're good in the relationship, but the other person may not be receiving it the way that that one is giving it. So that definition of who's a good man and who's a good woman is relative to somebody's experience and how they view themselves. What is their opinion of themselves? Because you could say you're a good man, but you're sleeping around, or you're cheating, and you're beating your wife, but you think that you're a good person because you're nice. Or you think that you're a good woman because you look nice and you do this, you do that, but deep down inside, you're not really bringing anything to the table. So it really depends on how you view yourself, of whether or not you're a good man or a good woman, because it could be that the two of you just are not compatible, and that you're not really bringing life to each other, but you're draining each other. And when you come into the relationship looking to meet a need from the other person, you already have come in the wrong way.
Yeah.
It's going to show up as you go along.
So essentially what you're saying is, when people, oftentimes, whether it's first time, second time, or third time around, people, when they engage in relationships with each other, they come into the relationship looking for, what can this person give to me? Rather than from the perspective of, how can I serve this person? How can I meet a need for this person? And really, it's really about how well you fit together and how well you are in sync with each other. And what I want to say to people who are watching us tonight is that this whole notion and this idea of fitting well together and gelling well together has more to do with being in sync. And for those who happen to be believers, let's use this stained glass language, equally yoked. And what that really means is how well you fit together and are in tune with each other, so that there is syncopation. And if you're going to have second time or third time or fourth time or whatever time around, hopefully we're not going 4 and 5 and 6 times around. So if we can't get it right in 1 or 2, possibly 3, then maybe the issue is not the other person. It's got a whole lot to do with us. And so that being the case, I want us to address tonight for a little bit, for the next 10 minutes or so. And we don't plan to keep you all long. And babe, I believe you've already done some of the watch party stuff. So you watch some of the comments. And if people want to ask us questions, by the time we get to the end of this, maybe we'll answer 1 or 2 questions tonight. But this particular post that my good friend Leslie Chisholm put up, she said that by the time the two of you find each other, the people who are in syncopation with each other, you're already afraid of each other. Why is that? Why? I mean, I think there's some truth to that, but from your perspective, engaging in this relationship with me, we've got a few things, guys, we want to share with you all tonight. And we've got 4 eyes, really we got five eyes for those of you who may be taking notes, that we want to just, share with you tonight about why is there so much fear for second or third time around, and really for those who may be first time around relationships, marriages, people coming together. Honey, on your end, just speak from your perspective. Why were you fearful about engaging in a relationship with me?
Several reasons. But if I can be honest, on the surface, my first fear was you're a preacher.
Mhm.
And
Uh-oh.
my experience sometimes with preachers has been a little different, it's different. And so, my first fear was that you're a preacher, there's a reputation that comes. The second was my experience had kind of put a default on the inside of me that said, I don't want to open myself back up to pain, to vulnerability. I don't want to be locked into anybody. I don't want to expose any part of my intimate self or life or thinking, I didn't want to be open to another person because it was a vulnerability I felt that allowed me to be hurt to the degree that I was in a previous relationship. And so that fear said, I don't want to experience that kind of pain again. I don't want to go through that again. And then and then another part of it was, I don't want to be trapped in a situation that I can't get out of. I was married for 18 years. It took, I think I was married, it was 12 years. We lived together 6 years, being separated, and trying to get divorced and going through this horrible just situation, trying to get out of this thing that felt like I could not get out of. And had gone through counseling, had gone through prayer, had gone through different things, hoping that it would get better, and it did not. And so I didn't want to be trapped in that kind of prison once again.
Yeah.
And so I was very fearful.
What's that called? Is it just the idea?
Yes, that
The
whole idea.
Okay, go ahead. The idea. Go ahead.
And thank you. Yet that whole idea of getting into another relationship was not attractive to me. It was just not attractive. I did not want to trust, and I did not want to open myself again to experience that kind of situation.
Again. Well, for those who may just be tuning in, this is second time around. I'm co-host Ray Johnson here with my lovely bride to be. What's your name again, girl? What's your name? What's your name?
The future Miss Johnson.
The future Miss Johnson. She is, and we're talking a little bit tonight about second time around relationships. And we're answering this question. There was this post a great friend of mine put out there, Leslie Chisholm. I want to make sure shout out to her out there in Houston, Texas. She's an LA fan. I know she is just excited about the Los Angeles Lakers right now. And big up to King James for winning on last night, his 4th NBA championship. But her post said this. Her post said, by the time, because there are no good men and no good women, by the time the right two who are supposed to be together find each other, they are afraid of each other. And so one of the reasons why you mentioned about being afraid in terms of the engagement with me was the idea of relationship all in itself because of previous history and things that you walk through. On my end of it, as a man, I was afraid of losing, as you mentioned, you talked about being afraid of dating preachers. And how you gonna have an issue with the preachers and your daddy was a preacher? Wait a minute now.
Hey,
I'm gonna leave that alone. I ain't gonna mess with that. I ain't gonna mess with it.
My daddy was perfect.
I heard. I wish I had the chance to meet the late Reverend Zolly Williams, but the Lord has saw fit to take him on home. But check this out. For me, I think for a lot of men, because of the status of where they are in life, they may feel that or fear losing influence and impact, particularly with family, business, vocation, and for those of us who are preachers, ministry. Because let me start there first. I don't think the church has come to a place where it copes and does well with people who have walked through divorce and are coming together into relationship the second time. Even though scripture gives some parameters in terms of those who should be recommended to lead, I don't think that we've done a great job in helping people be restored or even understanding dynamics around situations, which is why I'm glad we talked about tonight. Syncopation, people being in sync with each other, is really what it means in terms of being fitly joined together in the body, as the book of Ephesians says. So I think in many instances, in many situations, people who are believers and just understand that the divorce rate among believers and Christians is higher than it is even in the world. And I think we haven't done necessarily a good job on my end. I think because I was an engaged and an involved dad, because I was very present in the life of my children, not an absentee. And no, my divorce did not come about because of some abuse on my end or because of infidelity on my end. None of those things were evident, or none of those things were true. I can say honestly. And when people found that out, it was too late, because they had already said what they had to say to me and already cast this light on me. And I wasn't so much worried about what people had to say, because people are going to be people. Okay. You just have to be consistent and be who you are, which is to say this: if you're going to engage in second and third time around relationships coming together for marriage, you can't worry about the noise of the crowd. You've got to be who you are and be very consistent in terms of your engagement with this other person. But for me, I fear the loss of ministry, the loss of influence in terms of ministry, the loss of influence and impact in the lives of my children. Everybody knows I'm a girl dad, actively engaged and involved with them, love them very much. And I didn't want this for them, because we do have this issue on both sides of our family. And so I didn't want to be the person who's got to now keep the quote unquote curse going, if you will, because the older two in critical ages of seeing solidarity and seeing consistency and seeing that, and I modeled that so much, and then to end up here, I was very, very, reluctant before taking on the next step. So that would be mine. What would be your second one for you?
And before I go too far in that, because you hit on a whole lot of things, that whole idea of the church not being able to minister. I was so grateful that there was counseling that I could go to outside of it, because when you don't have an outlet, you don't know where to go to get healing, sometimes you suffer in silence. And especially if you're in ministry. And I was just a worship leader, and yes, I taught and things like that, but I really felt disqualified for ministry because I felt like a failure in divorce. I felt like I couldn't pray hard enough to make my marriage work, so I was a failure. So we've got to get a better understanding of when things are toxic, of when things are abusive, of when things aren't right. Not that we are advocating divorce by any means, because divorce is a very painful process. And it affects not just the two individuals, but yes, it affects our families and our children. And Ray, I'm entering into a relationship with you, and you have very beautiful girls, 4 very beautiful girls, and you are receiving my children as well. And so that whole impact of what's happening when there's a divorce in process, and when you walk through that whole season, we do have to be a better a comfort and a counseling kind of place for people to have that place to come.
Absolutely. Even before you go into that, let me just mention this. The place where I went with Living Waters down in Hidden, North Carolina, I had the chance to take you down there with me as well. And Lee and Denise Boggs, some of the greatest ministry. Now, for those of us who come from, the stream of Christianity that we come from, they don't look like us. Their shout ain't like ours. And they are a little bit different from us, but I promise you, the presence of God is there in Hidden, North Carolina at Living Waters Ministry. I recommend it for anybody. You can Google them or find them right on Facebook. Tonight, we're talking about why it is that there's so much fear of people re-engaging with each other in the second or third time around. You mentioned earlier the idea, I mentioned about the loss of impact and influence. What would you say would be the third for you?
The independence, because you now feel like I've got to take care of myself, and I've got to take care of my children. And I don't want, I don't want, it goes back to vulnerability. That whole, I don't want to lose my independence. I don't want anybody telling me what to do. As a woman, maybe not so much for a man, but to have to be dictated to of when I can go, when I can come, can come, and when I have to do this, that, or the other. But that whole independence, because when divorce happens, you're left in this financial position of grave loss, and you have to build back up. And so I watched God build my life back up, and I did not want to lose what I was building. I was afraid I was afraid of entering back into a situation that could possibly put me back where I was before, and I'd have to start all over again.
Yeah.
And that loss of independence and having to almost kind of turn over, this fortress and wall that we build to protect ourselves, to let that go was a big deal for me. I was like, no, you're not getting here. No, you're not touching this. No, you're not coming in. No, you're not going to, I didn't even want to be complimented. I had that whole protective wall. I did not want to let go.
What's that phrase that you used to always say to me all the time when I would be in pursuit of you?
What you want?
Yeah, what you want? What you want? It's so many times. I think that resonates with both men and women, the loss of independence, because now here you got to be in syncopation, in connection, and in relationship with somebody who does not think like you, may or may not have your background, may or may not share your worldview and see the world the way that you do, and may or may not have the same dynamics in their situation. And for those who've got children, and there are many people who are coming together in our age group, I won't tell all our business, but you can see, with my gray, it is what it is, that there are grandchildren, and there's the next generation beyond the children that also have got to be what we've called this phrase, mended and blended. If you're just tuning in with us tonight, this is second time around, a very much needed conversation of necessary endings and new beginnings. I'm Ray Johnson. This is my lovely bride. What's your name, girl? What's your name?
Didn't I tell you it's the future Mrs. Johnson?
Okay, you did say the future Mrs. I'm just checking to make sure, because we coming up on it. We coming up on it. So, and we're having a very much needed conversation about, people engaging not only in second time around relationships, but businesses, educational opportunities.
Yes.
Also looking at maybe ownership of homes, restarting their lives over financially. And so there was this post, a great friend of mine, Leslie Chisholm, she put out in regards to by the time the right two people find each other, they're afraid of each other. And I thought there was some truth in that. And as you and I were discussing it, you talked about the idea of marrying again or entering into a relationship again. I talked about the fear of influence with my children, with my congregation, people I lead, the impact into their lives for kingdom purposes. And then you talked about independence, and I think men also struggle with that one as well, because here is somebody I got to be accountable to. And mind you, by the way, you and I share this worldview in this sense that really relationships and marriages really cannot work without the person of the Holy Spirit present in between us. I know we're not in church, but I just thought I'd put that out there because it ties into my last one, which is for me, investment. Will I receive the return on the investment and starting over again in this new relationship with this woman? Right. And I think that women may share the same thing. We're talking about fears that people have, the investment that you've got to make in order to cause this relationship to begin to work. And so for me, I wasn't a perfect man by any stretch of the imagination. My children could tell you that, and I'm certainly sure my ex probably would say the same thing. But I think I was a very good husband, a very good man, working and a good father, doing the very best I could because I had a good father. So I understood what to do, how to do, and when to do. But I think the bitter taste in the mouth of men is that you hear this notion, there are no good men out there. And then when we become the quote unquote good men and then don't receive the return of the investment that we have made into the dynamic of family, many men kind of go, I don't know if I really want to do that again. It costs me too much. It costs me too much money. It costs me too much time. It costs me too much psychological and emotional stress. Pending what you do, if you're a public person like I am, engaging the public, preachers hear me, folk are not so much concerned about your pedigree and your educational background, or even the level of holiness in your life. What folk are really concerned about is who you are, or what your reputation is when you're not necessarily in service. And so I want to just help somebody understand and know it's quite unfortunate for us, but it just is what it is. I mean, all a preacher really got at the end of the day is his rep. And so for those who are engaged in public streams like that, if your reputation gets ruined, you, in terms of your profession and productivity, can be ruined. So the investment, I think, is a big issue on my end in terms of, am I going to redo this again? I'm older. I don't have the same energy and strength I had at 25 and 35, you know, and as I get ready to come up on the, I'll just say the Jubilee birthday next month. I don't got the same, now I know I'm slim, trim, and pretty and all that, but I ain't got the same kind of drive as evidenced as your son tries to dunk on me every chance he can get. And fellas, when I tell you he can shoot that thing, he can shoot that thing. So that would just be it on my end of it. And so what would you say about the investment piece? We get ready to wrap up here in just a second. Go ahead.
Right. It is an investment. And it's time. Do I really want to take the time to know somebody new? Do I really want to invest that kind of time? You know, because after a while, you get used to having your own time, doing your own thing the way you want to do it, you know, running the show, raising your kids the way you want. Don't want to invest that kind of thing and even open my children up to having to learn this person, you know. So that whole investment, it's a big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say this, if we had to give a positive tonight, because, you know, Leslie's post talked about why people are afraid to enter into second time or third time around relationships. And so we talked about that tonight, the very idea of it, one. Two, the investment that would be made. Three, the loss of independence from that. And then four, the return on the investment. If we had to give a positive tonight, I would say if it's going to work, somebody has got to take the initiative for the second or third time around relationship to work. It's not going to happen by osmosis. I would dare say this way, babe. I would say it's got to happen for purpose, on purpose. If the second or third time around relationship is going to work, it's got to happen for purpose, on purpose, which means you've got to be intentional and take the initiative. I know I probably got on your nerves a little bit in terms of the pursuit of who you are. What's your name again? What's your name again? What's your name again? What's your name? What's your name?
What, the future Miss Johnson?
Okay, yeah, I just was checking to make sure. So, you know, what would you say about initiative as we get ready to wrap up and close out tonight?
I will say that you took a lot of initiative. And I'm surprised that you stayed around as long as you did.
Wait a minute, you mean to tell me you put walls up? You put walls up on a brother? Really? You put walls up on a brother?
I gave you quite a bit of pushback. And I did some running because I wasn't ready to be tied down.
Right.
But your consistency showed me that you were serious. Yeah. And it also showed me that just like the Bible says, two are better than one. And, you know, I could see as we were coming together that two were better than one. You're very instrumental in working with my children, with going through all that they had gone through. The, you know, ministry was one side of just being in the ministry and working in the ministry. But I had not imagined working with a partner in ministry, and just to see it kind of unfold the way that it did. But just to really feel somebody love me and care about me as a person, not for my ministry gift, not because I could do A, B, C, or D, not because I had this particular job or made this kind of money, but really take an earnest care and concern about my livelihood and about my mental status and about, you know, what concerned me, what I cared about, what I liked and what I didn't like. So that whole dynamic of somebody actually coming into your world and wanting to be a part of your life for real was new for me, and I enjoyed it. I wasn't having somebody coming in and just taking and taking and taking, but somebody who wanted to give. So that kind of investment, you do get that return when you open yourself up. I know it took a while. You had to bring some, you know, take some bricks down. But it was worth it.
Good. Well, listen, we don't want to keep everybody long tonight. Why don't you check the feeds real quickly and to see if there's a question we can answer for somebody. While you're checking all the feeds, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to share this on the screen for people. we want to let people know that for those who have already received their invitations already, we are officially coming together at the end of the month. And what we want to do is to make sure that you've got the moment and opportunity to be able to connect with us at the end of the month. And I believe it's going to be on December the 6th. Let me try that share one more time because it didn't seem to take that time. And there we go. And we should be okay right about now. December the 6th will be the day right there at the historic post office. And I got to say this, we've got a limited number of seats. And so if you're coming, we need you to respond to us in terms of the invitation that you received and make sure that you RSVP. I've got some exciting friends that are going to join with us. I know people are concerned about COVID. Talk to them, honey, about what they can
Yes,
expect.
absolutely. And I work right in the hospital, and we are going to have masks available. You can, of course, wear your own, but we will have masks. We will take temperatures at the door, and we will have hand sanitizer because we want to practice wisdom and safety at the same time. So we don't want everybody coming together, breathing all over each other and catching something and that be the testimony. But we want you to come and celebrate with us and have a beautiful experience, which is why there is also that virtual option. And so I'm grateful that we can do the virtual option. And just like the RSVP comes for the physical attendance, you can also register for the virtual.
Absolutely. So listen, there's only one way I can really say it, and that would be, hey, that's what I can say. So right in the middle of the dance floor, I'm gonna grab you and dance with you like this right here. Listen, this has been the second time around with Ray and Tish. Much needed conversation of necessary endings and new beginnings. You can make it on the second time around. That's our encouragement to you tonight. Share this with somebody. Join us again next Monday at 8 o'clock. Were there any questions that anybody had that you can see?
We had comments, but no questions. And it's not this coming Monday, but the fourth Monday.
The fourth Monday. We'll see y'all and join in with you again. Make sure you tell somebody they can do it the second time around. God bless y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in. Bye-bye.
Thank you.